Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Be Unbound podcast. I'm Ben Billups, and this week it's a very special podcast because I'm joined by several members of this year's Unbound National Student Cabinet. And if you've been a part of the Unbound community for really any length of time, you understand that the National Student Cabinet is the group that plans Apex, which is the national student event that happens each year. So it's kind of one of the things that makes Apex really cool and really unique is that it's planned by students for students. And so when you go to Apex, the experiences that you're having, the people that you're meeting, and all the promotion that went into creating the event, all of that, 99.9% of that was actually created by a student team. And so we've got three members here today to represent the cabinet, but we're also I'm kind of excited just to talk about, their experience on the cabinet, their experience with Apex, to get into some fun stories from the community. So if you're a student or an alumni, or you've already been to Apex 18 times, you'll probably still hear a story that you haven't heard before. So, I think we'll just go ahead and get started with you, Kaitlyn, but I'm just curious to hear from all of you guys. Tell us how you found Unbound and what your first Apex experience was like. What do you remember about your first Apex experience?
Yeah, so I have maybe a unique story here because I am Kaitlyn Brush, and so my dad is Jonathan Brush. So I heard about Unbound pretty naturally when my dad started working for the company. And I was like maybe 10 or 11 at that point. So that's how I heard about Unbound. And my first Apex experience was also as a 12-year-old or something like that. I wasn't an actual attendee, but I got to go with Dad. And so that was my first Apex experience. My first time attending as a student was about 3 years ago. And I have just loved being part of the community and all of the incredible people. Unbounders have always struck me as people who care deeply about life, who care deeply about relationships and learning and growing, and a group of people that I'm always really excited to get to be around and invest in, people that inspire me and build me up. So yeah, that's how I got involved.
Right on. We also shouldn't let it slide that Kaitlyn is also the cabinet executive. So she's here, she's the one that cracks the whip on the meetings, makes sure everybody's staying in line. She may not sound or look like it, but that's what she does, behind closed doors. So.
Yep, that's right. My experience with Unbound is also a little unique in that the way I came to it has been different from a lot of other stories that I've heard. But basically, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to do it online, and I wanted to do it debt-free. And I was at a business convention one time, just started working as an intern for an accounting job that I was doing. And I was at a business convention and met a friend of mine who's a CPA. And I was just asking him about his college experience and what he would recommend, what the best path to becoming a CPA would be. And he mentioned a college journey that he'd done by the name of College Plus, which is way back in the day. But he highly recommended that because of the online option and because of its flexibility and low cost and all the other good stuff that goes with it. And so I got home from the convention, did a Google search. College Plus wasn't a thing at that time, but it was at that point with Merit, I believe. And so a friend of mine who had a bachelor's degree helped me walk through the process of getting that first call set up and got the introductory call done. They sent me a quote on a few different college options I had. And that's literally where it started. I jumped in pretty much right after that. Didn't really get involved in community, but just put my head down and hit the books, and was really grateful that it offered me the flexibility and the low cost options that it did. So that is really my introduction to the Unbound community.
Right on. And one of the things too, Tim, is like your introduction to Apex as well was actually through the regional events that we did last year, which was the first time that we had ever done Apex that way. So what was that experience like for you?
Oh, that's a great question. You're absolutely right. I had wanted to go to Apex back in 2017, just shortly after I started, but it took me, I like to say it took me about 2 years to work up the nerve to actually do it. But when I went to the regional events, which was the one I went to was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, so Spark North. It took me a while to, work up the courage because I'm an introvert. I don't really like getting out around crowds. But when I went there, man, it's hard to put into words how good it was because it just totally beat my expectations. And I had high expectations, for the Unbound community. But just being able to be there and meeting the people, having those great conversations, doing the activities, listening to the different talks, the sessions that were there, I came away with the feeling that for the first 2.5 years, when I just had my head down in the books, I'd missed out on a big part of that community that I could have been invested in had I really tried. And I definitely came away from that and decided I was going to make a much better effort at getting connected inside the community.
Yeah, so I got into Unbound because of a friend. I'm sure a lot of people know Amanda Beggery, and we were friends before either of us knew about the Unbound community. We went to the same church together, and we were the two introverts that would sit in the corner and chat every Sunday afternoon. And our families would then hang out together multiple times during the week, a lot of times. So I moved away, and what do you know, like a year later or something, she like messages me about this College Plus community, and she's like, it's affordable and like you don't have to get into any student loans. You can save money. And honestly, um I had no plans really for college. Like I wanted to do college, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And she was like, you could just get started, and they have this program called Navigate that would help you figure out what you want to do. And so we I pushed it off for a little while because I'm like, I don't know about this. But senior year of high school was starting, and I realized I did not have many classes to do because I'd done most of them in the previous years. And I was like, I have a lot more free time with school this year. Maybe I could get a head start and start on college. So I ended up joining. And then because of that, it was one of those things where you join and then you got to go to Apex for free. So I went to Apex 2017, and I'd taken, I think, one college course at that point. And at that time, anyways, I was super introverted, did not like meeting new people. I always felt super awkward. And I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. But I flew to Amanda's place, and then we flew together to Apex. And I was like, okay, I have Amanda. This will be fine. And so we go. And then she kind of disappears with a crowd of people. And I'm like, these are a bunch of people that I do not know, and I'm like no clue how to talk to. But what I found out was like Apex is like, I realized there are tons of people that are like afraid and like are new and just like don't know what to do. And when you all get together, you just end up talking and like sharing life and different goals and dreams. And so that really pushed me outside my comfort zone. And then I actually really loved it. And over time since then, I've like completely switched and like extroverted to the max. And I love meeting new people and talking and all of that. So it was really great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can relate to that as well because I just remember, usually when you go to an event and there's a big group of people, especially if that event has happened 2 or 3 times in a row, you go into a big room and there's already like cliques, right? There's groups of people who know each other, and then it's like, and it can feel pretty inaccessible as a new person, right? So you're like, okay, well, like, how do I actually like make friends with these people? That it's like, how do I get into here without just being a complete, just being just barging into these conversations, right? And but Apex is a rare event in the sense that I've never had that experience, right? it's like it's so welcoming. People, if you're by yourself, it's like odds are at least 3 people have already identified you and they want to talk to you. And it's just, that's something that I think is really unique about Apex, but also about the community as a whole. It's super cool.
Yeah, one of the things I remember doing was like you sit down at the table to eat. And so I eventually got to the point where like every time we sat down to eat, I'd choose a different table, meet different people. And that was always like it turned out to be a really fun thing and something I thought I'd never do myself. So
That's for sure. I remember pulling up to the building at Apex Spark North, and the time comes to get out of the car to go inside, actually meet these people that I'd seen online or I'd met on the forums or something, so I knew of them, but I didn't really know them. And there's always the point where you just have to do it. You have to go break the ice. You have to go meet the people. And I thought it was so cool to be able to walk into a room of people who were on similar college journeys and where you didn't have to explain the way you were doing college. Because, somebody asked me, so you're in college, what's that like? And it's like, where do you begin? How do I explain this, right? Because it's so different. So it's just really cool being in a crowd of people where it's like, oh yeah, everybody knows exactly what you're talking about when you tell them what degree you're doing. They kind of know the context of it. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And so I think one of the things that's also clear, especially just because not to just OG flex here, but I was at the first one ever. And, but over the years, the thing that's become so obvious is anytime you're at another student event, there's always like, oh, there was that one time in 2016 where, this guy was in a tree and something crazy. There's all these crazy stories, right? And it's like, they're not crazy in the typical college way. They're usually just super funny and innocent. But I'm kind of curious, like, for you guys, so a lot of you guys like Kaitlyn, you're an OG. You're probably the OGest OG, right? In the sense that you were basically a part of College Plus before you were even could take college courses. But then also Tim, like you're super new. So I'm just kind of curious to hear from all of you guys, like what's your favorite or like funniest Apex memory?
Man, that is a hard question. I feel like it's one of those questions where, someone asks you what's your favorite memory with your sibling or your best friend or whatever, and you have no idea where to even start because you spent your whole life with this person and how to pick out just one. And most of my favorite Apex memories are specific conversations or interactions with specific people that are kind of hard to tell as a story. But one thing I remember that was kind of funny, this happened a couple years ago. They had a giant laser tag game across the whole camp. They had us divided up into 4 teams. We all wore a different color shirt. And so I was on the blue team. And it was capture the flag combined with laser tags. So we had laser guns, and then we were trying to capture a flag from one of the other teams. And white was the team that was kind of closest to us, proximity-wise. They were right across from us. And so we got together as a team, and we created this strategy for capturing their flag. And we made an elaborate decoy. So we had someone go in and stage that they were stealing the flag. And I can't quite remember if we might have even used our flag or gotten something that looked similar to the flag. So it looked like he was, running off with the flag. And we had guards around him, like protected him and made this big commotion, made it look like he had the flag and was escaping with it. And then while the other team was busy chasing after him, we had another team member go in quietly, grab the actual flag, and by the time they realized what had happened, we had it almost back to our border. So we were kind of proud of that strategy and the way it worked out. That is, I think, the only capture the flag victory that I've ever won. But that was a pretty fun memory.
I don't remember what team I was on in that, but I remember that event. And I just remember, like, there's, like, this little bridge and, like, storming this bridge. And I remember Abe being, like, center lead in that. And that was extremely hilarious.
I remember having my camera and not being anywhere close to the bridge and seeing something happen and being like, I should be over there right now. That's but I do remember that there was like the moment with the storming of the bridge, and it was like, anyway, people talked about it, and it's like a whole moment.
Yes, it should have had dramatic theme music in the background.
Yeah, I think going back to Apex in Indiana, there were a few different memories there that I really liked, and it's hard to choose a favorite out of them. I'd say some of my favorites were definitely the small group discussions that we had, and being with a group of people who were asking the same questions about life, wrestling with the same questions, and just being in an environment where that was welcomed and where everybody was respected for what they were contributing was pretty cool. I think one of the funniest memories from that year was the photo challenge that we did. So each of the small groups had a team photo challenge where we had to, simulate different events, and we had to take a picture of it, and it had to tell a story. And one of them was not breaking rule number 4. And so my group, we thought about it for a while, and just a spur of the moment, we decided that the way we were going to act this out is we had one of our group, who turned out to be Sam Otto, took a fork and was going to stick a fork. We were going to act like he was sticking a fork into an outlet, and the rest of us were like, around him with our arms out and like shocked expressions on our faces, like telling him not to do this. And I look back on that picture and I laugh at it every time, because Sam's just like, a little kid with a fork ready to go into the outlet. And the rest of us are all just around him, telling him not to do this. And it's a really funny memory. And it also, I think it's a great way of bringing across the whole rule number 4 thing of not being stupid.
I think, man, a lot of my favorite parts were the like late to like 2, 3 a.m. conversations that would happen, and how we got no sleep and lived off coffee. Um, but man, I don't know. Like, I loved like the entire event, between like the small groups and like sharing life with people, and then the challenges and teamwork that we do, to like the speakers that really enjoyed, took lots of notes that I still have in like notebooks somewhere. Um and then like Unbound's Got Talent was always like super fun and very hype. And I just remember Ryan and Jillian rollerblading across the floor, which was pretty cool. Or Josiah Lloyd rapping. That was pretty fun. And the skits would always be cool too. So like just the entire event itself, I think, had like, there's aspects I just like really enjoyed, in like connecting with people and trying to follow rule number 4, but there might have been cases where that did not take place. I particularly remember a group of friends. I did not participate in it, but I found out later that they snuck out and like were on the beach watching the stars like all night until like early morning. And I was like, dude, you didn't tell me. I would have come too. But yeah, the entire event honestly was a great experience, and I can't like particularly like pick out any like distinct memories besides like conversational, because I love conversations and going deep, and that was really cool.
100%, 100%. Yeah, you hit on a lot of things there. There's the deep conversations. There's the on-site coffee shop. They make a mean iced Americano. Like it's legitimately good. So, there's that, and of course the talent show has always been a big highlight. That's always been maybe even my favorite part of the week. It's just, there's so much energy in the room. And so we've touched on this a little bit too, but I'd love to hear from you guys just on how Apex has impacted your life in the community. For a lot of students, Apex is their introduction to the community, right? And for some of you, it has been. For others of you, you were kind of a part of the program, or you were even a part of the online community, and then you went to Apex. So I'm just kind of curious to hear how has Apex impacted your experience in the Unbound community as a whole?
Yeah, it's hard to even put that into words. because Apex has had a tremendous impact on my life in the Unbound community and personally overall. Most of my closest friends right now are people that I met originally at Apex or other live Unbound events. Mostly Apex. That's where I meet most of the people. But just thinking back over the last couple of weeks and the things that I've done and conversations I've had with those people that I've met at Apex originally, I recently planned a wedding with a couple other Unbounders for another Unbounder. Drove to the airport at 2 a.m. To drop some friends off. All kinds of memories and conversations and phone calls and cross-country road trips with these people. These are people that have become, like I said, become some of my closest friends and are people that I get to do life with, whether that's locally or long distance, or traveling to see each other or only seeing each other a couple times a year. I still get to do life with them in different ways. And so it's had a tremendous impact on my life personally.
Yeah, I know for me that definitely the biggest impact it had on my life was making me want to get more involved in the community. Because in a big way, it was my introduction to the community. I had been on a few Empower calls before I went. I knew that the forums existed, but wasn't on them, I don't think. And so I just got my feet wet a little bit in the community. Didn't really think it was something I'd get involved in. I was just going to get my degree and, get through college and move on with life. And then I went to Apex, and boy, things changed. I realized I was missing out on a big part of the community because of just the conversations we were having and the type of people that you get to meet there. And that event was just way too short. And I thought there has to be a way that I can keep on connecting with people like this, people that I met, that I can keep up these friendships. And so that's when I started plugging into like the forums and Anthill and just staying connected with a lot more close friendships that way. Also, a big reason why I decided to apply for cabinet, just because it was one way that I could invest more in the community that I felt had given so much to me.
Yeah, I kind of like you, Tim. I was not like a part of the community. Like I had literally just joined and I was just like, oh, I get to go to this event for free. Well, I might as well go and do this. So I went, yeah, straight to Apex, and I like had only been known about Lumerit for a couple months at that point. And I would say, yeah, it like gave me a great like introduction into the community because I think personally, if I had tried like other ways of getting into the community, it is kind of vast and there's a lot of aspects of it between the Facebook group and the forums. And you can get like a little lost, especially if you don't know anyone and don't know where to start. So, with like going to Apex and meeting a lot of people, and then like, I just remember like the last day of Apex slash like the following days, like the millions of Facebook friend requests that would come through because everyone was like finding everyone else, and then we'd all like friend request each other. And then what do you know? You got like 30 more friends on your Facebook page. And some of them like I'd briefly met, other ones I probably saw somewhere, but like we're mutual friends. We have so many mutual friends. So okay. Um but it gave me a great like into the community, and like the relationships that I started in Apex I was able to pursue further. And for sure I also have some pretty close friends through like going to Apex and then going to other events that would happen in the Unbound community. And like we'd also like students would plan little things like we did. I think that year we did a pre-Apex event. So like some of us, because Amanda was getting me in on it, so she was like, join this event with my friends here, and we'll hang out with some people that you're gonna hang out with the rest of the week at Apex, or different things like that. So I definitely would say like it's had a huge impact on like me and like becoming more extroverted and like how I approach now like meeting new people and um just like life in general too. Like you have a further like outlook, I think, with the Unbound community, because like it is so vast and you get a lot of different perspectives and you hear a lot of different like sides of the story. And I really appreciate like having all these different perspectives on life and school and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, and speaking more directly to this year in particular, and this is kind of an opportunity for you guys to hop on your soapbox for a second, but with someone who's thinking about Apex, maybe they're an alumni who's like, well, I've been 3 times. What's so special about this year, right? Or maybe they're newer to the community, but they've never been. Why should, in y'all's words, and maybe we'll start with Tim, but why should a student come to Apex this year?
Hey, great question. And I'd say, first of all, this is an exceptional year to come to Apex for a few reasons. And the first one is just simply that, online connections are good. It's great to be on Anthill with other students studying. It's great to be on the Facebook group and on the forums and, connecting with people that way. Nothing beats in-person connection. Just getting together and actually spending time in person, eating meals together, doing games together, listening to sessions together, having conversations together, doing hilarious stuff together, all of it. You create memories and experiences that last a lifetime. And those types of connections are ones that you can kind of simulate online, but you just can't get to the point that you can with in-person connections. And I would also say that after the year that we've come out of, after 2020, and the way that it changed a lot of our worlds, and I think a lot of us have faced a lot more isolation and time apart from events that we normally go to and so forth. I think this year is a great year to come back and to reconnect. We didn't really have the big Apex event last year, but we're bringing that back this year. Everything, goes to plan. And I think after a year that was as unsettling and uncertain as last year, this is a great time to plug into the community again and to, if it's rekindling friendships, if it's making new friendships, those are both great opportunities to experience that. We're also, with what we're focusing on, it's really relevant to our times, and we're going to have a great lineup of speakers and activities there to help facilitate that. So I would say, it's a great time to be plugged into the community. And if you've been out of it for a while, it's a great time to get reconnected.
100%. What about you, Gabi, in your perspective as you're planning the event? What's unique about this year? Kind of what's your pitch for your student?
Well, I would say, first of all, it's called Apex Forge, Reshape Your Culture. We're really looking to, I think, as Tim said, with like everything that's happened in the past year or so, I think like we've all realized the importance of community and the need for community. And yeah, you can like connect with people online. I have some great friends I've been connected with online. But nothing beats meeting people in person and building either those friendships that maybe you started online, or meeting new people, and like you might be long distance after the event, but like it's a good like place to meet and connect further and deeper. So like with that realization and with the importance of needing community, I think that makes Apex all the more special, and that at Apex we're looking into really starting in your communities and building that community of like people who want to live life together and want to learn from each other and grow through each other and really pursue a like God glorifying life with other people that are like-minded and have different passions, maybe different goals, but you're all in that like community, that culture of like growing and sharing life together and learning from each other. So I whether or not you've been like multiple times like me, or you're a new timer, I think Apex is a great way to like meet people, to reconnect, to just like learn and grow with other people who are also wanting to learn and grow. And it's a great, like, in some ways, like a safe space to do that because of how great a community it is. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about you, Kaitlyn? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, tagging on to what Tim and Gabi both said, because they both said it really well. The Unbound community has absolutely been one of the most influential things in my life, and for sure the best part of college. Way more important than any of the classes and any of the academic stuff I've done. I've learned a lot more through the community than I have through the academic part. And so I can't encourage you enough to get involved in the community. Apex is a really great way to do that, just because there are so many other people that are new to the community that come to Apex as their first event. And it's just a really great introduction and orientation to what the community is, a great way to meet a lot of people, but also connect deeply with a few people through the small groups and through your cabins. And again, as Tim and Gabi said, I'm really excited for the theme this year of learning to reshape our cultures and learning that together. I think Apex is a really unique place to do that because we all share a lot of common values, a lot of common goals and experiences, but we all live in different areas of the country, different areas of the world. So we have our own local communities, our own spheres of influence that are different from each other. And so it's a really neat place to connect and be able to encourage and support each other and learn these tools for engaging culture, and then be able to take that back to each of our individual areas of influence, individual local places, and put that into practice, still with the support of an Unbound community that has our back. So I'm just really excited for the potential for impact that will create, and the way that Unbounders can do that together and really impact the culture. So I cannot wait for August and really hope to see everyone there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And I think, I can attest to, obviously in the past year, I've been more isolated than usual. A lot of people have. A lot of our Unbound relationships were more online than they were in person, especially if you couldn't make it to one of the regional events. So this is a really great opportunity to reconnect with the community, to reconnect with your friends, but then also to be empowered to go and reconnect and to shape community in your local area. So you guys can visit, those of you listening can visit apex.beunbound.us to learn more about the event. You can register there and you can find out a little bit more about the theme and everything that's happening. You can also read up on the team and the cabinet and everything that's going on there. So I highly encourage you guys to visit apex.beunbound.us to learn more about that. And then also, as always, many of those of you who are listening are a part of our community. You're past students, you're current students, and you're the type of people that know exactly the right people who should be a part of the Unbound community. Maybe listening to this podcast, you were thinking about somebody that really should be a part of it, somebody that belongs at Apex, or somebody in particular that belongs in this community. And if you know that person, then visit beunbound.us/refer, and you could generate a unique referral link, and you could share that link with your friend or family member. And when they enroll, you get a bunch of free perks, which includes a free event, free access to our Navigate course, which was mentioned earlier. You can go to beunbound.us/navigate to learn more about that as well. We recently revamped that course, and it's been getting a lot of rave reviews. So those are just a couple of plugs there at the end, but I'm super glad to have you guys on. Thanks for taking the time to talk about Apex, to talk about your experience in the community. And again, for those of you listening, just visit apex.beunbound.us to learn more. And we'll see you guys next week.